Joe, take it away.
Good evening and a welcome to your wonderful Monday night. I thank you so very much for taking time to join us. By now, just that little word of caution, if you have leftovers in your fridge from Thanksgiving, today is like the deadline. They say that anything after today, if you still, by some reason, haven't eaten it all, you need to throw it away or it could make you sick. Now, that doesn't apply for desserts, but really, who has any desserts left? I mean, seriously, that should be gone.
Pumpkin bars.
But
There were still two left when I came out here tonight.
Yeah, I got
what?
cookies.
Yeah, there's still two. Well, Lori didn't make the pumpkin bars until Sunday, actually,
Okay, well then that doesn't count.
and it was a
That's today.
big.
That's this next day.
It's one of these huge, the kind of cake panny type things that you would see at a wedding. She's got one of those big, like full sheet type things, and there were like three left or whatever, 4 or 5 left after. Let's see, yesterday was Sunday, so by the evening there were 6 left because she put them in a container in the refrigerator. We have teenagers.
Surprised you have any left at this
Yeah,
point.
well, there
Yeah.
may not be by when I get back into the house, but we'll see.
That's when you got to lick the top of it so they know.
Oh, like that's gonna slow them down.
Have you met teenagers before?
They're like,
Yeah, my girls would get grossed out.
As I say, you had girls like that. That's
Yeah.
the difference.
Yeah.
Like you get some boys thrown in there, and they won't care. It's food's food.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
The dog could have licked it, and they would still go after it.
There have been times where it's like, oh, I'm eating my banana with the pup. Bite for the pup, bite for the pup. Yeah, teenagers. So, guys, tonight I want to dig into a little bit about networking. This is the time of year where, for many of us, it kind of starts to slow down. Whether it has already because we didn't do, or we may not do corporate events, or there aren't as many of those out there. And then for others, it might be like after the first of the year, that January, February becomes that booking time. The corporate events are over, so you're done with those. And this is the time to figure a way to make the best use of your time. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is specifically networking. And I want to kind of take this in a direction of different, and we'll kind of brainstorm, and this will be in the chat room included with that. Brainstorming of who could be a potential networking partner in this situation. And then once we've identified a certain networking type partner, or someone we should really target, or an entity we should target, then we're going to bounce some ideas off of how we could be effective in networking with them and to connect with them. So it's going to kind of vary back and forth as we go through, but yeah, we'll kind of dig into that for tonight. Before we get started, though, many of you may have seen the news this morning. About 4 this morning, there was an email that came across from our friends at Odyssey Cases. Odyssey has been a sponsor of the DJNTV stuff for a number of years. Make some great cases. I've got some of their cases on the other side with my gear in it, but this morning, Dave Lopez, they sent out a thing saying that David Lopez, who's been with Odyssey at trade shows forever, had passed away due to an illness with cancer, a battle with cancer here. He passed away yesterday, and they sent that out. So there's information around and such. If you don't know who that is, you can head out to on our Facebook page or even on the main website, and we have a picture of David up there. He's many of the trade shows. If you look back at some of our videos at NAM and such, you'll see I'm interviewing David because he was the guy that we talked to nine chances out of 10 at the different trade shows and such. And if you never get a chance to meet with him, he was one of these. He was an old school DJ. He was one that started back in the early '80s, if I'm not mistaken. And when we would start talking stories about those early days and the types of gear we used and the things we would, all the stuff that you guys don't like when I talk about that stuff on Monday nights. Dave was the type of guy that was a lot of fun to talk to because he could go back and he predated me when it came to events. He was doing events before I had started, but there were many similarities from his Southern California years and what we were doing up here. And it was always fun to talk because we'd do a little bit of our gear, and then he'd be like, so remember back in the day, back when we had this, or remember this. It's like, okay, but David, we're about ready to shoot this next video. Yeah, I do remember that. So, it was an interesting time when we would get together at a trade show to shoot video with him, and I enjoyed our time together. So I just wanted to throw that out there, David. We'll miss you, man, at the next show. So
He was a good one. He
Yeah.
remembered everybody and always had a good hug for you, and just so genuine,
Yeah.
just so genuine when you talk to him.
Yeah. Yeah. A good guy out there. So just wanted to put that out there and show our appreciation for him being that good person in our industry, and he will be missed. So first off, guys, let's talk networking a little bit. Now, Cubbie, you were just before we went on air, you were talking about corporate parties, and that I think is one of those areas in which it can networking can be very advantageous. Let's just, because of the phone calls and things that you've been having here, what are some of the things you attribute to your success in booking these holiday parties? Even outside of networking, what really is your driver for bringing that business to your company?
I would have to say the midweek stuff that we do, the trivia, the musical bingo, being out on a weekly basis, people who work. I'd love to, they talk about holiday parties and how it's been boring for years past. And let's face it, not a lot of people dance at holiday parties anymore because they're afraid to be made fun of on Monday of their dance moves and the liability. They get 2 drinks and the liability of drinking. So they always like some sort of interaction, some sort of game and personality. And that works really well. So I would have to say my weekly events is 80% of them. And then 2 of them came in today just strictly from venues. Said, hey, you're really great to work with. I picked up a 6-hour that has a hypnotist and we're dancing. So we're not really dinner music, hypnotist, and then like 2 hours of dancing, and it's the easiest one ever. So
Sure.
just make sure that you're just always out there promoting what you can do this for holiday parties and how fun you can make your trivia and or musical bingo, and try to do things outside the cuff of just minute to win it type games, simple icebreakers like heads or tails, and showing how it's a team activity. I like to call it team building, because everybody's getting to know each other, sometimes different departments, and so I like to call it team building, and it works out really well.
So the trivia and things you do during the week, we're going to focus on this for a little bit, because that is a form of networking of what you're doing. You're being paid, of course, to perform and do what you're thinking, but you're doing something that these people are like, hey, I remember that guy who did the trivia, and I know this guy. How do these people know you besides, the tattoo you have on your chest when you take it across, say, DJ Cubbie, beyond that, how do you set yourself apart from other trivia companies that are in the area?
All my stuff is logoed, like my answer sheets are logoed, my photo picture rounds are logoed. I really don't have anything other than, and then musical bingo. My screen is logoed, of course, with Select Entertainment. So I keep everything logoed. So if they take home a photo picture round, or I have some people just take them home and share them with their friends and go, hey, you know what this one is, or back to work, and just having everything logoed so it's easy for them to find me. And then some people flat out come up and go, you got a business card? I sure do. Here, we do all sorts of holiday parties, and it's great for team building and stuff. So if they like you, they'll ask for one. But just keeping all your logo and everything.
And that's where I'm headed. They like you. Why do they like you? What are you doing that makes them like you more than they would like someone else?
And I'm a dork. I am not gonna lie to you. I love to have fun, roast people. Like sometimes when I'll give an answer, I'll be like, the answer is Kesh. I'll say the answer Kesha is not the right answer. Like, oh, I'll be like, yeah, and then like is not the right answer. Like, so I'm like, come on, guys, I gotta have some fun too. Because I like to watch them like build them up and then knock them down. And they just know my personality, and just kind of like laughing with them. And as I tell my other hosts, I've got a lot of locations. I'm like, anybody can read questions, but are you entertaining while you're doing it? Are you using voice and inflection? Are you working the crowd as you pick up the answers? We're one of those companies that go around and pick up the answer sheets. I know some companies like bring it up to the host. No, go out and talk to the teams. How'd you do on this round? Oh my gosh, that was crazy. And talk to them and build that rapport. And all my hosts, I keep the same bars. I don't rotate any host. They stay in that bar for the duration of the as long as they work for me. And I got people that's worked for me 8-9 years hosting trivia at the same bar. And it just makes the people come back because it's like home. It's like going back to see the same person every Tuesday, Wednesday night.
Sure. Definitely does. Have you seen a similar success where you have that host that's been in there, that is not yourself, and that they will also have people say, hey, I want to hire this person for our company event because we've had so much fun with them?
Yeah, no, no, not at all. No, just kidding.
No, it's only
I'm
me,
the
Dan.
best there is. Yeah, I know.
No, no,
No,
no.
I've got some great hosts, and they do get they grab that corporate party and they're available and they'd like to do it. I pay them handsomely. I do have wedding DJs and I have trivia host DJs, right? So some don't work on the weekends,
Sure.
some do. It's a great breeding ground for training your next DJ, wedding DJ, comfortability on the mic, being able to roll with the punches, things of that nature. But no, if they want to do the holiday party, by all means, they brought it in, they can have it, and I pay them greatly for it.
So Dan, we're going to put a pin in Cubbie right now because he kind of the one area in which he talked about, of course, was that being likable, being entertaining, being connecting with the audience and such. Now, a lot of people, of course, would view if we were doing some of those things like that with some of the weddings we do, and not that Cubbie does or doesn't, whatever, but the success he has with that audience is a little bit different when it comes to what you and I are doing at weddings. How can we bring some of that type of connecting to our weddings, or have you brought some of that kind of connecting that have made people say, hey, I want Dan to be at my wedding or what have you?
One of the things I think that's key is what are you doing in the times when the guests first walk in and see you for that first moment to the time when you even open up that dance floor. There's such a large portion of our night that's falling into the cocktail, that's falling into dinner, that's falling into your announcements, your grand introductions, like all the little pieces that you do that oftentimes, for lack of better terms, I think a lot of DJs put it on that back burner because they're like, oh, I need to throw the biggest party. And I'm not disagreeing that that's a good key element to it. But as Cubbie mentioned, a lot of the holiday parties right now, they're not dancing, for a multitude of different reasons. So a lot of times your company owners are looking for other things. They're looking for that personality that's going to be there, that's going to keep it going. I have two companies or two different holiday parties for the same company happening next month because of a wedding that I was at in October. And the owner of the company came up to me and was like, "Hey, you got a card?" This was like a fourth of the way into dinner. I was walking around to the tables. I was helping to invite them up to the buffet line. Like I wasn't mixing, I wasn't doing anything at that point. Music obviously was playing, but it was just on an auto mix, and it was a general playlist that had been requested. So a little bit of kind of everything. And he came up to me and he's like, "Hey, do you have a card?" And I kind of knew who he was, but I didn't let on to that part. And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And I gave him one. He's like, "All right." He's like, "I appreciate what you've been doing tonight." He's like, "I'm going to give a call on Monday about a holiday party." He's like, "You do them, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And that led to, sure enough, by the end of the night, he's like, definitely calling you Monday. He had a secretary call me and we set everything up and everything was good to go. And then one of their other branches that's a kind of a little separate from the main one reached out for the same thing, was like, "Hey, we're here, you're doing for this group and we want you to do it for our set as well." And it was just like all again, like it wasn't like he came up and asked the card for during open dancing. Now, granted, I think had that flopped, maybe it would have been a different story. But it's those elements of how you're carrying yourself. Like I pride myself on trying to make sure that I'm smiling as much as I can, to make sure that I'm walking around, that I'm constantly kind of getting a gauge for my speakers, like in the sound that I have, that they're not blaring, but they're not, dead, when you walk 10 feet away, like making sure that everything is to the level that it needs to be. And when I make my announcements, this is something that Mike Walters kind of instilled in my head. I remember him saying, like, get out from your system, be on the floor, like make that presence known, and make yourself there. And those little skills, just all those things are what lead up to catching an eye from somebody else who just plays music or doesn't do those skills to the same level.
And I think that as you say, you're describing it, you make yourself approachable. You make it look like you're someone that I could come up and talk to and feel comfortable. You're not intimidating. You're not imposing. You don't look like you're in pain being there. And I think you can see the same thing in Cubbie's the way they work with the mid. They're up there having fun. They're going to people and engaging them and having some fun with them and such, and taking it a step further in building that relationship and building that network with some potential clients. Some may not be potential clients, but they know somebody, and you're building a relationship with customers or potential customers. And I think that's something that we overlook. And it's even in the situation as I've been training DJs over the years, as you mentioned with the having a smile on the face, just looking like you're approachable and not just, the Serato face, as they like to refer to it as, which I don't think it's so much Serato face. It's just sometimes when you're up there and you're like looking grumpy, and it's like, but are you mad at something? No. Well, you look at, well, they're all dancing, so what do I need to be? I don't need to be looking excited or fun. It's like, no. You look like you're a storm cloud. And no one's going to come and approach a storm cloud. Well, they might, to poke you with a stick.
If you're not familiar with how you're looking when you're at an event, one is you can set up a camera and just kind of scroll through your footage and kind of see how you're doing. But if you even if you don't do that, go and stalk the photos from the photographers that you've been working with. Like if they share them out, that's even better. But if not, and they just kind of put a gallery out, just skim through them and look for yourself. That was a wake up call to me. Like, because I never thought it was frowning, but I definitely was not smiling. And it was kind of one of the things I was kind of like, oh. And then I think it was Randy Bartlett who was another one who was just like, listen, those of you that have facial hair, and Cubbie, you probably run into this the same way, because we have the goatee, especially, or the mustache aspect of it. It makes us look like, if you just have a straight face, the facial hair actually makes it look like you're frowning. So you almost have to smile even more to kind of make up for that. So, something to just kind of think about is, if, MJ talks about, I remember him talking about, he has something on his laptop that basically talks about, keep that smile going, keep that face going, because people see it. And it also makes you look like you're having a good time. If you're having a good time, it's going to spread too.
And don't be afraid to, use your personality and have fun. I'm not here to debate whether you should dismiss tables or not dismiss tables. It is just something that we do when we're asked. We have no bones about it. I love doing it. Walk up to table, team bright. But anyway, that's enough. But when I go to announce my my table dismissal, I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's dinner style is buffet style, and I'll be the one dismissing your tables. So if you please wait your tables to dismiss, I'd greatly appreciate it. I promise to get through everybody by 9:30 tonight. I promise. I've never, in a chuckle, right? Everybody laughs. I've never missed a deadline. I don't even wear a watch, but I still look at my wrist. Like, what I'm saying? Like, I know what time it is. And, just to relax everybody, go, once your table's dismissed, we're going to go to both sides of the buffet, grab a plate, don't forget your silverware, whatever it may be, but have fun with it. As, it's not always serious all the time, but just relax. And if they see you having a good time, they're going to loosen up as well.
Very much so. And that helps to grease the wheels in those times where people are like, oh, this guy's really fun. This is, we need somebody fun for our, whatever the event is. And I think that's a huge aspect of that. When you do have someone who saw you at a wedding or saw you somewhere, and they have referred you to a potential client, and the client has booked you, have you guys ever done anything to send a thank you out to someone who will probably maybe never hire your services, but they have become a fan of yours and have sent business your way?
Who do you want to start? Okay. In a professional setting, as far as venues and coordinators and photographers, you betcha, all the time. If it's a person that referred me off the cuff, I'll definitely send them a text, find out who it was. Well, who was it? And send them a text, or find out if I am on Facebook, send them a message if I have any of their contact information. But let them know that, man, I greatly appreciate you sending me that business. And if I get 2 or 3, you betcha I'll send them a Starbucks gift card. And you can do those via email. It's like, hey, what's your email address? And you can send them one, send them a Target card, whatever. Just something simple that everybody could use. Here, have a sandwich on me from Jimmy John's, $10.
What happened to McDonald's coupons? Can't we send those, the coupon for the, free small fry with the...
They're in the app now. That's the only way to get it.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so 1990. Oh, but Dan, yourself, have you done something when it comes to thanking people when they have made referrals to you?
Not exactly. So anytime that something comes in and I get a reference from a certain particular vendor. Um, let me rephrase that. With the exception of some venues, and nothing against the venues, but majority of my referrals come from my venues. So it'd be one of those things where I kind of would just continually going, hey, by the way, thanks, 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 thanks. So I've gotten to the point where when I'm there again, I'm like, hey, by the way, I've been getting a bunch from you. Thank you so very much for that. I appreciate it, and that kind of thing. When I get it from the photographers or videographers and things like that, as soon as it comes in, I hop on Facebook or something like that in Messenger, and I just send them a quick thing that says, hey, so and so, I just heard from so and so. They said you sent them over to me. Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. Looks like we'll be working together for for their wedding or whatever it might be. And that's usually kind of the extent that it goes. Um, I really kind of like Cubbie's idea with, like, especially if you get a couple of them in a row to do something. One thing I have done for my venues that have been my biggest supporters. Um, Alan Berg has Shut Up and Sell More Venue Edition, and I bought 6, 10 of them, something like that. And so the venues that have been like my big ones, I had Alan even offered to like autograph them and personalize them, and then I gave them to them as gifts. And with that kind of thing, I always felt it was a good idea because it wasn't just, hey, here's something as a quick thank you, but here's the thank you that can also turn around to make you more money.
Sure.
And that's why it really kind of made an impact for some of them. Um, some of them were very appreciative of it. A couple of them ended up like hitting up Alan and like doing more with him because they loved the book so much.
Wow.
So that was kind of cool to see too, that it kind of turned around that way. But something like that, I feel, is always a good idea, right? Because it's not just about a thank you, but it's also a way for them to turn around and make more money, which is good.
For sure.
4 years ago, I bought. I apologize, John.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hydro Flask are really popular. But back in the day, about 4 or 5 years ago, before Hydro Flask and Thermos all got popular with the lids, they used to have those silver cups, right? And they'd fit in your. I used to have them engraved with Select Entertainment on them. So there they are walking around their venue with my cup and logo on it. And so I did that quite frequently. I did that about 4 or 5 years ago, and I bought 20 of them and just passed them out with my logo on them so they'd have them.
Sure.
It's cheesy, I know, but still, could you imagine being a DJ and somebody else walked in and there's like another DJ's cup on there? Like, oh.
But it was also something in that particular case. It was like a nice little gift that they would actually use, and it had a little value where it wasn't a box of donuts or something. There were times where we did cookies back in the 90s. There it was you'd bring a tray of cookies or something to that effect. Another was the bringing a Thursday afternoon snack was a cheese and cracker tray. In central Minnesota, that's a thing, and people liked it. And it was, whatever, that's kind of gone by the wayside now because half the people can't eat dairy and the others don't eat meat. So that's gone away. But little things like that, and sometimes I think it's the thought that it was something is the important part of it.
I think the one downside to something like the consumable stuff, like the stuff that whether it's the meat and cheese or whether it's anything like that, the one downside is unless you're doing it frequent. Like, so for example, Cubbie mentions like every time he gets 3 or whatever it is, then he might shoot something that way. So that's going to happen a little bit more frequent. But if you do it kind of like a one thing, so when I was rebuilding my website, the company that I used, like right after, like we were still in some of the planning process, it was a snow day that I was home and he knew about it, and he door dashed some donuts and sent them to me because he knew I was home with my kids that day, and it was great. And I thought real favorable of him for about 2 months, but then it kind of went to the wayside. Not that they did anything wrong, but like that glimmer that I got from him doing that only lasted so long.
Sure.
Where I think something like the cup or something that is a useful gift, whatever it might be, has the ability to kind of last a little longer, to kind of be there a little bit longer. So if you're looking to do something like that, I would, whether you do the cup or whether you do something else, I'd look for something like that if you're going to do it kind of a once a year, once every, so often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think having some thought to it and just not going to the first thing you find at the store, the cheapest whatever it is. If you're going to go that route and do a reward as you're networking with venues and other vendors. For a period of time, there was this thing called newsletters, and DJs were creating a newsletter list, and they would actually go and type up these things, and then they would print them, and they would send these out to their list of people. And most DJs who did this had 2/3 of that list being venues and other vendors and such. Do you do anything? Maybe not the mail thing, but do you do any kind of a regular contact, whether it's via email or phone call, text message? But do you do any kind of semi-regular contact with any of your vendor type networking you do?
No. Kevin?
As I shared with you earlier with DJ Event Planner, I'm able to send out emails post event to vendors that I've worked with. Some being photographers that I asked for their, for the galleries and things, and make sure they logo them. And that's an opportunity that when they send it to me, I'm like, oh my God, you're the best. What's been happening? And that kind of opens up a good thread. They think I send this email out like I'm like really on top of things, but it's just literally comes from DJ Event Planner, automatic sent out and everything. But they respond, then it's like, oh my God, that was such a fun wedding. How's your season been? Anything you see anything crazy? Just kind of stuff I'd seen if I saw him for the first time after a wedding, after a couple of weeks or whatever. If it's a photographer, kind of just like catching up with them. Have you seen anything crazy this season? And just kind of have fun with them, and then just email back and forth. And that seems to work a lot. And I'll take, there's a couple, I have a really good close vendor friends, a couple of photographers I talk to on an every other day basis. I have group chats with a bar company and another venue owner, and they talk about their DJs for that night, and like the stuff they're seeing, or like this, this lady owns a bar company. She got 7 underage drinkers this last week. And she said, why are people testing me last season, last wedding of the season? And so it's just kind of funny. We have these text group going, and they'll send pictures and I'll send pictures, and it's just kind of, just staying friends with everybody.
Right. I think there's different levels, obviously, and getting to the friendship level like that is absolutely fabulous, because generally friends are going to be able to be there to refer and send business your way at any opportunity that they certainly can. So in the venue thing is newsletter thing's gone. Email newsletters are garbage as far as I'm concerned. Also, doing some things, automated things with DJ Event Planner, I think is fabulous, and it would be great if a person was able to utilize the automation of it and be able to do some things to your list of vendors. That would be absolutely cool. It probably is there. I just don't know how to do it. But this is the time of year, though, that many venues are starting to push out content. If you remember a few months ago when we were talking about get your pictures, get your video clips. Well, then the venues are doing this, and they have that stuff. And now they're starting to put their information out there. And it's a great time to go and show them some love by liking, commenting. Now, the becomes a situation, specifically one venue that I like to work for. They post 4 times a day, and I've gone through and this is where you got to do some research. Go and check and see what their posting strategy or what they're doing. Are they posting once a day? Are they posting once a week? Are they posting 4, 5, 6 times a day? This particular, they've been putting up 4 posts a day, which I think is way too much, but that's a story for another day. Now, I could go through and I could like each one, but then I'm going to look like that poor, weird, desperate person who basically is stalking their thing. So a person has to find a happy balance of showing them some love, making an appropriate comment. I think is if somebody would post on there that and granted they wouldn't do this on their business page, but if they post something about, wow, we got slammed and we sold all of our lunches for yesterday and it was just so great, even though it's not wedding related, it would be like, hey, wow, wow, Helen, that's great. Your food there is always so great every time I've been there for whatever. You could do things like that and make a comment on it, because even though you're not their exact client, having that comment on there is going to help their post be served to other followers of their page. So there's value to you going and doing that. but you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to make it look like you're stalking. So my recommendation is to go and check these, about 10 different venues and such, or different vendors you want to work for. Find out what their posting schedule is, and then dedicate okay, so this one looks like they're doing this. I want to go on Mondays and Thursdays, and I'm going to go like or comment on a post on Mondays and Thursdays. This one, it looks like they only post once a week, so I'm going to probably hit every other week and be making it. The idea is to be intentional with what you're doing, so that you can have that presence there. And after a while, they're going to be seeing, hey, John Young liked your post. Hey, John Young commented on your post. They're going to see this thing happening time and time again. If you do it from your business page, if you've liked them and follow them from their business page, you can do it, of course, from there. I wouldn't do it from both. Choose which one you're going to do and make it happen. Little networking that way, whether it's Instagram or it's on Facebook or wherever. There's other places. These little things don't cost you much more than your time, and they can have some really big results later. One particular venue that I like to work for, when I go and I see her, I can go and it's like, Jill, I absolutely love that picture of what you guys did with the head table about 2 months ago with that. Was it the Olsen wedding? I knew it was the Olsen wedding because I went back and relooked at it. I think of it Olsen from the community. Yeah, and yeah, we just had this. Oh, and it's like, Jill, the way you guys set it up, and then it was like you brought the attention of the couple, or everyone's attention to the couple. Just a wonderful. That was our conversation when I went and I was setting up for a wedding there. Well, now she feels like she's 10 foot tall and bulletproof type of a thing, and she's all excited because I spent a little bit of time. So I had something to talk about, and I was able to compliment her on some of the things they do. And even if you're seeing something that they're doing on Facebook and you're like, this is really awesome, sometimes this may not be appropriate to post and say, wow, this is awesome, Jill, you did a great job. It doesn't hurt to reach out and send a message through Messenger there and say, wow, Jill, that is an awesome picture you guys have there for that. And I just wanted to reach out and say how much how much you guys just do such a great job. Those little things will help make that relationship with some of the venues a little bit better.
The other thing I'm going to add to that is, and then stop. Like make that comment and then stop.
Yes.
Because too many DJs and not even just DJs, business venues, our industry is riddled with these people who will do that and then go into a sales pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Or right after they, they reach back and then they'll go into the sales pitch. Just stop. Like, make your comment. Don't be self-serving. Say it. And then, and then have a normal conversation like you would have with somebody else that doesn't necessarily have to revolve around your business. And those kind of things are going to have a bigger impact with anybody that you're talking with. But
that stop is great advice, and I think that stop really, especially if you're doing a quick little thing, you don't want to have a back and forth with wow, that was a great thing you did with the head table. Your head tables are always so fabulous there at the Holiday Inn. And then, why, thank you, John. It was it was so great that we got to see you. And then, how are the your fall whatever, or hey, the kids. You start carrying on this conversation and take it off the rails. And I think that idea, Dan, of stop before you go into a sales pitch. It shouldn't be a sales pitch in this case. And secondly, is that there, you make the comment, they would say thank you, and you move on. It's done. The stop is there should be a big stop sign right there. Pops up. Good advice with that.
Yeah, and then let your performance just do it for you. You don't have to talk about yourself at all. Just let your performance do the talking for you.
And I think that's really where we're headed to with this, is that the success you've had with corporate stuff is your performance did it, but it was the relationships that opened the door for your performance to stand out. And Dan's his open demeanor, that people could come up to him, and then his performance stood out. So then that helped. His open demeanor opened the door, and then his performance basically brought them in through the door. And even in the situation of where we're trying to network with our other vendor friends, is that our being likable and being personable and being open and positive and such made us approachable. And then, of course, when they do see our performance, they're going to be like, hey, you know what? this Dan Carpenter, he's pretty good, and I like this guy. He's I've had some positive experiences with him over the years, and this is somebody that you really should be hiring for your wedding. It all comes together. There's this great book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. I have many of friends who did not write that book. I can tell you that right now.
Or read it.
or yeah, they didn't read it either. So those are some of the big areas with that. Let's talk about kind of a last, and we'll be wrapping up here in a little bit. Networking with other DJs. There was a time where it didn't happen at all. It was like, okay, there's a DJ over there, and he could be taking a show from me. I hate his guts, and that was it. That was pretty much it. We were in our own little world. The internet didn't exist yet. We were still, carving our names into the rocks of our cave to let people know, that we caught 3 buffalo instead of 2. It was a good time. It was a really good time. But then in the 90s, things started to change. In the early 2000s, we started to get together and have networking type events within our own industry, and getting to meet DJs down the road. Then social media came around, and in some cases it helped to perpetuate more getting to know DJs within your area. And for some people, it became a way of showing more hate and anger and hostility. But there seems to be less of that nowadays, which is a good thing. That there's either, there's they just don't care, and then there's the people who are reaching out and saying, hey, I want to, say hey and chat sometime or whatever. In your area with DJs, I want to have 2 different areas: networking with DJs who are out of your market for more of a learning type of a potential, and then how do you network with DJs within your market, which could become a sharing of leads type of a situation. First off, how did you open the door for the local ones, and then how did you open the door to network with national DJs? And Dan, I'm going to have you start this one, since Cubbie, I think, started the last one.
So for the local ones, a lot of times the door would open at wedding shows. We'd be there. We could kind of like talk to our own kind, right? Like, and that was kind of the piece to the puzzle. It was like we had an understanding. And if you introduced yourself in the right way, it wasn't coming across like, oh, I'm scoping out your setup that you have here. Sometimes that would be the door that opens, right? You'd be like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm a DJ also. I'm over here in the side of the room. I'm just curious, what are you using here? Like, what do you, what do you have? And that sometimes just the talking about gear is enough to go, hey, like, you jump in and you start running with it. So that's where in some of the cases, that's where it started. Or I would have some that would reach out to me, kind of very similar type of idea, and just kind of had that conversation. One that I talk to, at least weekly, if not more, that Keith, that we've had on the show.
Yep.
He and I, it was kind of one of those things, like, we knew of each other. We didn't really have any paths that crossed. We never did the same wedding shows or anything like that. And just out of nowhere, we started chatting, and it's like through Messenger and different things like that. And that led to opening the door for leads and that. And for me, I end up finding leads based upon, you know, I'll see a photographer or videographer that I work with and I know does great work. And then I see them working with another DJ, and we might have I won't ask the photographer about that, but I'll be like, oh, I saw you were at so-and-so's wedding, whatever. Oh yeah, I was with so-and-so. And like they would light up. Okay, that's a favorable experience with that DJ. I understand that's a DJ that I understand the quality of work. Okay, now they can go on my referral list. And kind of use those types of pieces to kind of take that networking that I've done and combine it with a referral that I can feel confident behind.
Sure.
So and then you said something about national.
Let's go. We'll come back to national. Let's let Cubbie talk a little bit about how he has connected with local DJs in his market. What path he took.
So being one of the oldest, like I was always sharing the oldest fish in the pond. Like Dan, it started with at bridal shows, and you kind of going around, and gear always opens up the door. What speakers are those? So that's always a real good to go. I've mentored a lot of the DJs locally, We have a Facebook group called the Iowa DJ Society, and we invite everybody to it. And some will, some won't. So what? You know what I'm saying? We invite everybody. We let them know this is an open door. We're here to share, and we share leads. Like, hey, I'm booked out on the 22nd. Anybody, I can pass you the information. We'll post it in the Facebook group, and I literally send their information to them because we meet up once a month, and we share ideas. And some guys can't make it to the national shows because they have full-time jobs, but so people that maybe have went or done some things, we train a little bit, talk about stuff like we do on every Monday night. And then, like I said, the ones that don't, that's on them. They've either got the chip on their shoulders themselves, or I don't know, they like trying to grab all the business. There's more than enough weddings in my they can have some, and everybody can have some. It's not a big thing. There's more weddings than there probably are DJs sometimes. And I understand I'm not everybody's DJ, and I get that. But like I said, the ones that don't want to join the group, they've got their own chip on their shoulder. That's not on us. And so we'd love to send them business, but they don't want to join and be part of it, then that's on them. But always be receptive. Man, they are not your competition. Nobody in your, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna like you, they're gonna sell yourself, and they'll go with you no matter, they'll do what they feel is best. And I tell you, even in my sales consultation, I'm like, look, whether you book Select Entertainment or whether you don't book Select Entertainment, this is what you should be looking for, especially on a DIY venue. They don't have somebody there to help you. So you're going to want to find a DJ that can be your wedding planner, but just can't pick out your flowers and colors. Right. And that's our service. We're going to line you up for the wedding. We're going to go every detail like that. So you've just got to sell your service. And if you're the right fit for them, they'll book you.
See, my personal experience is the bridal shows were certainly part of it with the early on. And then in the early 2000s, we started to host meetings, kind of doing similar to what, Cubbie, but we didn't have the Facebook group type. It was phone call, Yellow Pages phone call. Hey, introduce myself. And some came, some didn't. Some came and they came to basically badmouth everyone that was at the event. Or whatever, and some came and became really really good friends over time. But it was the idea of making that effort to just pick up the phone and start calling people, and the modern version of that we just did this in Minnesota where we made a page where we have DJs for sharing if there's someone who needs is a DJ in need and whatever. It's all DJs in Minnesota and where they're located and such. Because if somebody has a show that needs to be covered and they can't do it for whatever reason, accident, sickness, whatever, that there's people out there, especially for single ops, that can say, hey, I got a list of other DJs I can call and hopefully get something taken care of if needed. That's today's version of building those groups and such, and it worked out pretty well. It did in some cases backfire on a couple of situations, but overall, some of my best friends in the industry have come from those local networking groups, or now we'll take it to the national ones. Dan, you're going to start us off again. How did you meet national DJs? How did you make them part of your circle that you could say, hey, I got a question?
So it was kind of funny. I didn't even know. I mean, obviously I knew DJs existed across the country, right? But I had never really heard of like the trade shows and that kind of thing until I went to my first one. I won the full all expo pass to DJ Expo back in 2012, I think it was 2011, something like that. And went not knowing anybody. Like nobody in my area was going that I knew of, or if they did, I didn't know about it. And so I kind of had to just throw myself into it. And I remember the year that I went, Mike Fernino this is back like in the infant stages of DJ idea sharing. They had a dinner and just kind of threw it out. And we went to, Ruby Tuesday, maybe something like that. And we went there and we had dinner, and there was probably like 20, 25 of us. And that was it. Right. So think about how large that group has gotten. But like at that point, it was like, okay, this is a decent number of people that are at the show. And we all got together and just had dinner and started talking. And so I got to meet people that I didn't know, people from Washington, D.C., and Mike's from up in Connecticut, and a couple other people from different areas. And so I just started kind of like chatting with that. And then when you leave the shows, like I'd made some friends there, you made some acquaintances, continued to be interacting in the Facebook groups. Um, and then the next year went back and started seeing some faces again and started seeing some different people again. And then the more I went, the more those national names became closer. The more that they became kind of a part of it. Um, and even to the point that, people that were like are in the eastern part of the state. So those of you that know Adam Scuba, he's done some different things, and I've gone out and seen him, and we've done some workshops together. And so that introduced me to people like, partaking in like a Marbecca workshop. The people that I did, I still talk with them, at least once a month, if not more frequently, just to say hi and get together. And then, starting writing for the paper just kind of really opened the door, because when I get into a large group, I kind of hold back. Like I don't know people, and so I'm just kind of go with the flow. People started coming up to me. And so then it's like, okay. And then I could let my guard down. And those things just kind of all, I know I've said a bunch of things. I don't think I can pinpoint one piece. It was a lot of little things that all kind of molded itself to go, yeah, you know what? If I have a question, I have no problem reaching out to them and just saying, hey, what's going on?
Sure.
What can you tell me, and how can I help you in turn? Like, obviously, don't just be a receiver, be a giver as well.
Cubbie, how about yourself? National, how did you start making connections beyond your market?
I got lucky, John. As you know, my story is I started working for Mobile Beat magazine right after Barner Corso and Lundquist sold it, as a national sales director. So I was able to produce a show for several years. Then moved on to the American Disc Jockey, company called like Bliss Lights, which did laser lights. Then went on to American Disc Jockey Association with their show, and through DJ Event Planner. So literally just networking at every show that I can, just being part of the show really helped a lot. And I wouldn't be where I was today if it wasn't for all the people that I've met through all the years of going to these shows. And I, from Randy Bartlett to Mike Walter to Joe Bunn to everybody that's ever spoke, and Jamie Bodie. I mean, you just learn something from Larry Williams, everybody, right? And so I encourage you, if you don't go to national shows, pick one, pick a local show. Maybe it's Midwest DJs Live, maybe it's Marquee, maybe it's a Harvest of Sound. There's some great ones out there I haven't been to, maybe start at a small local show, whether it's Robbie Britton's down in Tennessee, wherever you may be, and you can find one, go to it. And like Dan said, our nature is I don't know anybody. Get outside of your shell, talk to people. Nobody's going to eat you while you're there. Nobody's going to bite you. They may nibble a little bit, but it's just a good time. It's just a really, really good time. And I'm just fortunate, and I thank the lucky stars every day that I had that opportunity and that I seized the opportunity. I think that's where our friendship started, John, 20 years ago. So I know exactly, going up to Crystal Lake, Minnesota to your show up there. I can encourage you enough that lifelong friends that I talk to on daily basis that maybe take an hour out of my day, but it's just because they're friends. And I love them dearly. And some I don't get to talk to. Nick Hahn is watching from Promoli, or Jim Weiss, or Glenn. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like people that you got. It was, I been texting with Jim Weiss. Lisa, like, I need to talk to you. We haven't talked in a long time, and it's just great times.
And that's where very similar with the networking on a national happened. Very similar to what you guys are discussing. The only thing is I was ahead of that, so we started our networking and connection with ICQ, then the Mobile Beat chat board. And then from Mobile Beat chat board, once it started to get a little rough there, then it was divided into Pro DJ, then had a chat board, and DJ chat became. And then eventually we got to the point of where Mobile Beat magazine shows and all those things became. So there were a lot of steps over the years. But the thing that with networking and such today is that if I go through my phone right now, and if I go through probably the most called people beyond my wife and my, probably not even, I don't even call my kids because they'll never answer, my wife and my father, then it's my DJ friends and DJ connections, and a couple of them are are in that mentor type role that I will bring questions to on a semi-regular basis and ask them about, to get their thoughts on things. Some are just people that I know and love and just want to talk to and share life and explain exactly how I didn't get in trouble this time. So, that's the part of it. But it became that group that I now know that if I have a question about how to do this, I have some connections in my network that I can ask, and they're going to give me some advice. If I have questions about this, I have other people that I know that are going to be able to give me some advice on how to handle that. Knowing a lot of my friends, most of the time that advice will probably be bad advice, but you know what? I've taken bad advice and messed it up myself, no matter. I'm taking good advice and messed it up, so it doesn't really matter. Although I want to get the t-shirt made, that Cubbie, the Cubbie t-shirt, some will, some won't. So what?
True though.
It is. It is very true. It's like, oh, that'd be a great. Some will, some won't. So what? I like that. All right, guys. That's pretty much where I wanted to go tonight. And it looks like our time, we almost hit it right on the nose.
Nice.
Wow.
But yeah, the idea, I think the big thing though is we've kind of gone through is I think the being someone that people would want to connect with is huge, and I think that's come through from the beginning, talking about the trivia, performing at weddings, performing wherever we're at, being someone that people, our vendor friends will want to connect with. You don't want to be that stick in the mud type of person. And then when we meet DJs nationally, is that we're there and shaking hands and giving hugs and sometimes you were hanging out and at the coattails of someone to meet new people. It's just trying to be that person out there that others will feel comfortable enough to connect with. I think is a big part of life.
And not just making a genuine interest in who they are as a person, right? Like when I was talking about it earlier with the stop idea, like, whether it's that case or whether, you're at a venue and you're talking with them, it doesn't always have to be business.
For sure.
Like if you're
Right.
talking about the specifics of the day, that's a different story. But I'll be honest, one of my pet peeves that is a question that almost everybody always asks: how's your season going? I really don't care. Like, I mean, no offense. Like, that's not a question that I'm going to ask because, it's just, how are you doing? How are you as a person doing? Those are the kind of things that's going to make some good interest in people. And that's also going to make them, want to have that conversation, because a lot of times when you hear that question, how's your season going? It's the best ever. Really? I saw like the 12 posts you talked about having a weekend open. Come on.
And I think the part of that to really hit home is when you have those opportunities to be face to face, having that personal conversation is so critical, because you can do and asking the real questions. How are you doing? It's been a busy season for you. How are you feeling at this time of the season? You've had shows you're looking good, but that's out here. How is this? Are you? Because most people won't ask those questions, and sometimes, that's good advice, Dan. Great stuff. Cubbie, any final thoughts?
No, just be genuine, like Dan said. It doesn't always have to be about business. Check on their family, their kids, and that's what makes it personable, and that's what makes you a friend. Is it doesn't always have to be about business.
Up next, we've got Hanging with Howie in the Chill Room, DJNTV.com/chill. I'm just typing it up and going to send that out. You guys can pop out there and check out the show. They're going to be doing a little recording, and then after that, then they will be doing opening things up and having kind of that social networking time, but the 2023 version, where we do it online. So have some fun with that. I've got a couple of videos dropping this week. Dan has got one. I've got one dropping tomorrow night. Is David Osborne's going to be on with Big Daddy at 9 o'clock Eastern. At 9:30 Eastern, Ben Stowe's going to have 5 tips for having better, more successful wireless microphone experiences. He's put some tips together for that. So 5 tips for having better wireless microphone experiences. That will be at 9:30 Eastern tomorrow night. So 2 quick shows. And then after that, we'll be back to the Chill Room with the Tuesday Night Music Show with Brian and Jay and John and Howie and Eric and Matt and who is the cast of characters that come through and share their love of music on Tuesday nights. So excellent. I think we're good. I think time to take her home, Dan.
Okay. Well, on that note, everybody, I very much appreciate, we do, having you all join us, and thanks for the chats and what you guys were saying in there. It's about some different ideas as well. If you're catching this in the replay, make sure you come and join us on Monday and partake in that as well. But we all hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of November as we go into some crazy times. Have yourself a good one. Bye, everybody.